Okay, so today we are going to perform an EVA spacewalk in orbit. Now, previously I did an EVA on the Mun, so this shouldn't be too difficult to achieve. So what I need to do to fulfill this contract with the Kerbin World First Record Keeping Society is go on an orbital spacewalk near Kerbin, so I'd say in Low Kerbin Orbit, right? Low Kerbin Orbit is about like under 280,000 meters or so. So just, you know, build a basic spacecraft and do an EVA spacewalk in low orbit. So I'm going to accept this contract. Okay. And just gonna do a save game now. And let's go into the VAB and build a spacecraft that's capable of achieving low Kerbin orbit. So I'm going to create a new spacecraft. Start out with the Mark 1 command pod. And then, let's see here, I'm going to add my parachute. Oops, parachute. And then the basic decoupler. And let's see here. For my first stage, I think an FLT 800 fuel tank with a LVT 45 swivel should be good enough. Okay, so that's, how much does that provide? 2,087 meters per second. You need about 3,600 meters per second total of delta V to achieve low Kerbin orbit. So what I'm going to do is add another decoupler at the bottom of this. So I've built my first stage, now I'm building my second stage. So what I'm going to do is probably put a back thumper down here. And so that, now my total delta V is 3019 meters per second, right? So when I click that button there, it shows what the actual ISP and thrust of every rocket is, right? So, for instance, the single back thumper is contributing 933 meters per second of delta V, while the LVT 45 is contributing 2,087, so I still need like 600 more meters per second of delta V. So what I'm going to do is add another 2 back thumpers in symmetrical arrangement around this first back thumper. So just put those there, and then make sure they're aligned properly. So I'll go into the move tool, and there. Now they're aligned exactly the same on the y-axis. So I'm going to go into aerodynamics, add aerodynamic nose cones to these outer stages. Okay. So now I have 3722 meters per second of delta V. That's a little bit on the edge, sort of, because if my trajectory is not perfect or close to perfect, I won't achieve orbit. So I'm thinking I need a little bit more here. What I probably need is another pair of fuel tanks on the first stage. So let's see, my staging here. And yeah, I can do that. So it goes, you know, your 0th stage is the parachute, right? The first stage is the liquid fuel stage, and then the second stage is the solid booster stage. So to add wondering if it's really necessary to have this all, right? So it might just be possible to have a couple of radially mounted RT10 hammers, right? We'll see. The basic suborbital craft doesn't require all this. All it needs is this, with a little bit of an extra fuel tank, right? So like put like an FLT 200 on the bottom. So now we have this, right? And that's capable of 2,352 meters per second of delta V. Then let's put some radial decouplers on, some TT38Ks on the sides here. Symmetrical arrangement, right? Then put some RT10 hammer solid fuel boosters, attach those to these radial decouplers. Then you basically have your you add aerodynamic nose cones to them. Now you have a spacecraft that is capable of 3,114 meters per second. Is that really capable of achieving low Kerbin orbit? Not 100% sure. See here. Alright, so what's going to happen is these two outer rocket boosters, these hammers, are going to deplete first. All three of these are going to fire at the same time, so it's going to be a hybrid type of system where the liquid booster is firing at the same time as the solid boosters are. The solid boosters deplete earlier, they are decoupled, and then the liquid stage ascends into orbit. Meanwhile, the fact that the liquid engine has gimbaling aids in the orientation of the craft. So what I can do then is add some basic fins to stabilize it. So here's some fins, and I can add some to the here. Alright. Make sure that they're vertically aligned, roughly in the same position. Okay. That looks reasonably okay. Alright, so the total delta V here is 2,971 meters per second. Now, this liquid motor is going to fire not at 100% thrust at first, because we don't want the spacecraft to accelerate too quickly through the thickest part of the atmosphere. Okay, I'll call this LKO Craft 1. Capable of achieving low Kerbin orbit. Okay. I'm going to do some tweaks like don't need monopropellant because we have no RCS thrusters. Raise the altitude to 2,000 meters for the parachute. And then I want to also let's put Valentina in. Give her some experience. And also, I think what I want to do is, as well as doing an EVA, I want to transmit data from the EVA to Kerbin. Now what I can do is, I can do the EVA and just keep the information from the EVA and then splash down, which seems like it would make sense, because I don't think there's any other data that I would need to transmit. So let's try this out. Let's see if this works. Alright, so I'm going to set the thrust on the liquid engine to about, I don't know, half. Oh, one small change. I'm going to orient the craft equatorially to take advantage of the angular momentum of Kerbin. Makes it easier to get into orbit. Alright, so orient this way and save, and let's launch. Okay. Get my throttle down to like 50%, turn my stability assistance system on, and launch. Okay, 80 meters per second, I start to do my gravity turn. So, am I going too fast? Let's see. I am twisting a little bit. Alright, so that explosion was the sound of my other boosters. Alright, since I'm already red, I'm going to slow myself down a little bit. What happened? Okay, I'm not 100% sure what exactly happened. Yeah, alright, so I'm going to orient on the prograde vector. And I need to do a burn, right? Because otherwise I'm just gonna go back down. Alright, so now I am okay. Alright, so once I reach the apo point, I'm going to add a maneuver and circularize my orbit. Alright, so that requires 1461 meters per second. That's going to give me an apo of that. As you can see, alright, so if I do my burn at my current apoapsis, which is on basically a parabolic trajectory, I will achieve this orbit where I have a slightly eccentric orbit. Let's see, my parry is going to be 79. I want to make it so that my parry is 82. My apo is 130. Alright, so I have to also bear in mind I want to, or I need to have enough fuel to decelerate. So, let's see here. Alright. When is my burn? It's going to be 26 seconds long, so I need to start doing it at about 13 seconds. So I'm orienting my craft to the target vector. And then I'm going to do a burn. Burn. So you can see my vector, or my orbit, gradually growing. Trajectory is widening from a suborbital to an orbital trajectory. Alright, now I'm going to do a more careful low thrust burn to make sure that my orientation is correct. Keep it on that target vector. And my display has changed, indicating that I'm in an orbit now. That delta V is gradually decreasing to very little. Just like getting very close. Alright. That works. Okay, I'm in orbit. Low Kerbin Orbit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till I get or reach the sun-facing side of Kerbin, and then I'm going to do my EVA. Let's see here. Valentina is in the command pod, and she had a little bit of a disorienting experience at launch. I don't know why the spacecraft flipped over, but I was able to recover its orientation. You can see the decoupled radial decouplers there for those outer solid stages. And it's Kerbin rise, or sunrise. Kerbal, I think, is the name of the sun. This booster, or the tank, which has an FLT-800 and an FLT-200 attached to each other, has about 4.74 units of liquid fuel and 5.8 units of oxidizer left, which should be enough to decelerate the craft for re-entry. So I'm going to lock the orientation prograde so that we're always facing our prograde vector. What I can do is just fast forward to about, right here. So now we're definitely over the sun-facing side. Okay, so ship is reorienting itself and orient so that we face Kerbin. We can make it so that, yeah, we can do this. or so that we can see everything. Yeah, do it this way. Now I hover over her icon and do an EVA, so let's go EVA. Okay, so Valentina is now outside of the spacecraft. And so it looks like, what I can tell, the EVA has been achieved. So she's now out in outer space, basically, attached to, or she's holding on to the door handles there. Now, I'm not going to have her jump off because I don't want her to get lost, even though she has some thruster packs on her. So for this mission, all I have to do is have her, hold on to the craft in outer space, and I'm gonna right-click her and give her an EVA report. So let's see. EVA report. EVA report from space just above Kerbin's grasslands. You've recorded your observations about the situation. So basically, I've done an EVA report over the grasslands of Kerbin. I'm going to keep this since I have no way of transmitting it. I don't know if there are multiple different batches of science that you can get. So like, say, if you do an EVA over the ocean, does that qualify as an additional batch of science? But basically, what I'm going to do now is store the experiment in my command pod. And EVA report from space just above Kerbin's grasslands added. Okay. Can I add more data? So say I end up orbiting over Kerbin's ocean, right? Is that another EVA report with additional science? And you'll notice that my spacecraft is not oriented with the really oriented with the prograde vector anymore because the SAS has turned off. The SAS on the spacecraft itself has disengaged, since I believe it requires, having SAS turned on in a spacecraft requires that there's a pilot inside. And since Valentina is the only astronaut and she's a pilot, the fact that she's outside means that the SAS cannot be engaged. So that's not, too bad right now because the spacecraft appears to be holding its orientation. Let's see here. Can I take another EVA report? EVA report from space just above Kerbin's water. You've recorded your observations about the situation, so I'm going to keep this experiment. Then I'm going to store this experiment. Okay. EVA report from space just above Kerbin's water added. All items stored. So, if I understand this correctly, those are two different reports, each with 8 science, so they would total 16 science. And I don't know if I can do any other EVA reports. Like, it'd be cool to be able to do, say, one over the Badlands or over mountainous terrain and get, additional science for each observation. Let's see, I don't know how many EVA reports can be stored, but we can basically hold on to the outside here, wait till we get over an interesting part of the surface. And you can see Valentina, she's in outer space there. Let's see if I change my view. I don't think I can change my view. No, I can't change my view to, like, from her first-person perspective. So, basically, she's just holding on. She's got her thruster pack there. Alright, so slowly but surely I am going to pass by the Terminator and go on to over the night side of Kerbin. And I think, like you can see the big crater there, I can, once I reach the apoapsis, I can take an observation over that crater, and that should be additional science. Despite my spacecraft tilting a little bit during launch, and me losing my orientation in the upper atmosphere, I still was able to maintain a fairly okay inclination. It's not like the inclination angled too much. As you can see, I'm pretty much flying right over the Kerbal Space Center. So right now I'm slowing down because I'm approaching the apoapsis, which is about 134 kilometers above the surface. This is still Low Kerbin Orbit. It extends to about 280 kilometers. And that apoapsis point, I think, is eventually where I'm going to do my burn to bring the Perry down into the atmosphere so I can re-enter. So, let's see here. She's holding on, and of course my spacecraft orientation relative to the surface has changed because it's not locked onto the prograde vector anymore. So once we get over the crater here, I'm going to do another EVA report in about 2 minutes or so. Getting close to the Kerbin set here, or Kerbal set. Let's see. Alright, you can see the big crater here on the right. Once we reach our apo, just less than a minute, gonna go and take an EVA report. Alright, now we're over the crater. So, let's do an EVA report. Okay, so reset that one. Doesn't look like that's any additional science, because I already took a report from above Kerbin's water. Maybe if I wait a little bit longer, get over this terrain here, which is somewhat mountainous, there'll be a different EVA report that I can take. And that will soon, it will be nighttime for us. Actually, the sun has set, so it's actually twilight. Alright. EVA report. Above Kerbin's mountains, you've recorded your observations about the situation. Okay. Let's take that report and then store the experiment. Okay, so now I have 3 experiments stored in my command pod. I see them on there. So this is a mountainous part of Kerbin. I think that once you keep heading east and towards the Kerbal Space Center, that's like grassland area. So more or less, I think all the different biomes and terrains, actually I think these are hills. Right here, this area, are hills. So we can try another EVA report soon. After that, like I think all of the biomes that we can fly over in this particular orbit will have been flown over. I guess you could fly over here, because that's the desert, I think. So let's see here. Wow, this is quite the EVA. She's getting quite some experience. Let's see here. Okay, let's try another EVA report. EVA report from the space just above Kerbin's deserts. Okay, so that's a different one. So let's keep that one and then store it. So now we have 4 units of data stored. So that's 32 science. I think deserts. So this is a desert area then. And I think as you head farther east, you'll reach grasslands again. I don't know where the Badlands are. Those are mountains. Badlands are like somewhere around here. And of course there's, if you want to go into a polar orbit, you can also take an EVA report from above the ice caps. If you have a spacecraft that has some additional delta V in it, you can alter the inclination to do stuff like that. But for now, I think we've pretty much captured what we can capture. Like, what are we over right now? Let's see. Deserts, that's the same. I'm just gonna keep going along this orbit and see what I can capture. I think hills or something is once we get near the Kerbin or the Kerbal Space Center. There's like hills or something here. Alright. See if I can do a fast travel. Cannot warp faster than 1x while Kerbals are on a ladder. Okay, that makes sense. So I would have to go inside the spacecraft again to be able to fast travel. Alright. 1. This area here looks like a desert, and then this peninsula is probably also a desert. So once I reach this peninsula, which is where this continent, where the space center is, I'll have another opportunity to collect information. See? Alright. You can see the mountains there. Alright, let's try another EVA report over this peninsula. It's deserts, okay. Just wait till we reach the other continent. As you can see, we're descending towards the periapsis node, and our altitude is decreasing. Get here. And of course, as we descend towards the periapsis node, the orbital speed, also increases. You can see here on the right side the snow-capped peaks here in the mountain range that's just west of the Space Center. Okay. I think it's grasslands, which we already captured, and we also captured mountains as well. Okay. Now we are over land again, I believe. Yes. So, take another EVA report. Deserts. This is deserts again. What's this? Grasslands. We've done grasslands already. I think that's pretty much it. Like, there's hills, right? I'm not sure if that's a specific type or biome type. Now we're basically flying over the mountain range, and we're flying over the station. Okay, so let's see if we can capture another one. Yeah, it's grasslands. Aha. That must be the space center right there, right? Or is that some of my debris that's still in orbit? No idea what that is. Because the space center is right there where my mouse cursor is. Okay. And these are the islands to the east of the space center. As you can see. Now we're over water again. What I'm going to try to do is collect a report over Badlands, because I think that's the only biome that I may be flying over that I have not collected data from. Otherwise, I would almost say this mission is something to soon wrap up so that we can land again. So let's see here. I don't know what this is. That seems to be like a rather difficult area to catch because you have to be right above it. So let's see. This might be grasslands, I'm not sure. But it's very, very narrow. And we're flying over at like 2.3 kilometers per second. Valentina is quite amazed. Okay. Okay, so we're going over that, so that's a little bit easier then to do. Okay. Now. Shores. Ah, good. Okay, so I'm gonna keep that one. Yeah, EVA report above Kerbin's shores. And I'm going to store that. Alright, so now we have 5 units of data stored in the command pod. And that probably, like this peninsula here, is probably either shores or grassland. We're slowly approaching this big continent here, which has a lot of like desert and mountains and badlands. You can see my orbit has a slight inclination to it compared to the Kerbin orbit, but nothing really dramatic. Grasslands, so that's grasslands. Alright, and this is probably going to be, I can try to take an EVA report here, but it's probably just going to be either grasslands. I don't know if there's a hills biome or not. So, going over that terrain. And so let's see what's here. Shores. Let's see. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's fine. Okay, let's see here. EVA report. Grasslands, so that's grasslands. That's grasslands. I'll just reset the experiment. Okay, so basically shores and grasslands. That is a river delta. I don't know if that is itself a type of biome that I can collect data from. This river delta here. We'll see once we fly over it. That's the delta right there. Let's... Okay, once I reach about here, a few seconds, I'm going to capture data here. Okay, so let's capture this EVA report. Shores. Shores. Yeah, I don't think there's anything special about that delta. Grasslands, okay. Alright, so now that we're over grasslands, we're flying over mountains. This here might be either grasslands or deserts that we're approaching here. I think that this coming up here might be more interesting. It might be Badlands, I'm not sure. Let's see. Grasslands. So here, I guess I actually don't know what these spots are. They might be rock formations or something. Maybe small lakes. Yeah, it's still grasslands. Once we get over this here, this mountain range, I can see if it changes. If not, then I would say this is basically just areas that we've already, or terrain types that we've already taken an EVA report over. Highlands. Okay, so EVA report from space just above Kerbin's Highlands. So that is something new. So I will keep that experiment and then add it to my collection. Okay, so this area is the Highlands. So this is like a high plateau, sort of. Like the Himalayan plateau or something. Something similar. Then here, what we're coming up to here might just be like mountains or something. Mountains. I'm hoping that I can get an EVA report over Badlands. But we'll see. Okay. Grasslands. So this is grasslands. Sooner or later, though, we're going to be over this rugged terrain here. This rugged terrain is what exactly? Mountains. Yeah, we've already taken an EVA over that. So with that, I would say there really is not much else here. I'm not exactly sure where the Badlands are. I think they're more like down towards the south. So I think those 6 EVA reports are what we're going to return to Kerbin with. Can try for, like, say, these lakes here, but I think it's just going to be grasslands. Yeah, grasslands. Either grasslands or highlands. So I would say, so what do we have? We have grasslands, shore, highlands, water, right, mountains, and desert. So those are the terrain types that we've collected EVA data over. There's other types, I think, ice caps and badlands, which I could probably collect EVA data over in another mission. For now, however, let's wrap this mission up, and that's a good question. Before I go too fast here, I'm going to try to see if I can collect data over an island. So it looks like we're flying over an island right here. So I don't know if our orbit is directly over it, if it'll just be shores, but it's worth a try. I don't know how many orbits Valentina has actually taken. I think she's almost gone a whole orbit in EVA. These are grasslands. Okay, so once we get over here, I'm pretty sure it's going to transition to the shores biome. EVA report. Grasslands. Okay. Oops. Grasslands. We're still over grasslands, it thinks. Shores, these are shores. This here, however, what is this? Shores. Okay. Grasslands, shores. So it considers that island to be a grassland. Alright, so let's zoom out here. Let's get back in the spacecraft now. So I'm going to select this module. So I can press space to let go. I don't want to do that. Or B to board, so I'm going to board. Alright, so now I'm boarded. So let's turn on our SAS again. Turning on our SAS, orient to the prograde vector. So now we're oriented in the direction of flight. And let's see, at our apoapsis, we can change our periapsis to be suborbital. Right now my periapsis is about 80,000 meters, which is about 10,000 meters above the atmosphere. So my burn, I can do a burn at my apoapsis. See, right there, add a maneuver, a retrograde burn to bring the periapsis basically to a 20-kilometer point. Okay. Let's do 25. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so that will require 47.7 meters per second of delta V. We have 257 meters per second left, which is more than enough. So that node is in 1 minute 20 seconds. It does not require much burn, so it's just going to be a very, very precise maneuver, requiring little fuel. I'm going to orient my craft retrograde. Okay, and now let's turn to stability assist and orient ourselves to that target vector. Okay. Alright, so now. Okay. Alright, our periapsis is now 37,000, a little bit more. Okay. Alright, so now we're at 25,567, so about 25 kilometers periapsis. That's basically enough to aerobrake into the atmosphere. So what we're going to do now is, since we're about 133 kilometers, I can just jettison this stage here. So we'll orient ourselves prograde, and then here, let's see, it's 25. Yeah, we can already go ahead and jettison this stage, this first stage. Alright. Now it's just the command pod. So what I can do now is orient myself retrograde. So now my heat shield will be facing the atmosphere. As we slowly descend, you can also, let's see, yeah, we'll be landing fairly close to the Kerbal Space Center, or at least on the same, roughly the same side of the world. So what I can do now is, you can see my debris in the distance there. Let's review this stored data. Alright, so there is 6 EVA reports. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll just keep all this stuff. So basically, those that data has been stored. You can see my debris of the first stage is slowly drifting away from me. I can turn my light on. Okay. Let's speed things up here. As you can see, we're slowly speeding up as we head towards the periapsis node. Going at about x10 time. Okay, music has stopped. We are now in the atmosphere, and we are slowly aerobraking. You can see our periapsis node is descending because the air is slowing us down. Okay. Once we get to about, I don't know, 50,000 meters, start to heat up. You can see, okay, so now we're suborbital. Eventually the periapsis node should meet with the surface. Our craft is slowly heating up with wind resistance. Look inside, over the night side here. Got our food, our not food, our laundry, and our toothbrushes. Orbit's at 2330 meters per second. Altitude is declining. And you can see we're starting to re-enter. Our debris is about 2.4 kilometers away. So yeah, now our landing point is getting closer and closer to the Space Center. rapidly decelerating, just about 2 kilometers per second. And it looks like we're going to land in the grasslands or the mountains behind Kerbal Space Center. Just about where the Terminator is. Turn the light off. Let's see, turn this light off. Okay. It's an interesting view here. Alright. So, yep. And our parachute is opening, and it will fully deploy at about 2,000 meters above sea level. Let's see, our altitude's about 13.5 kilometers above the land. We're going to be landing on the land. Once we land, I don't know if the sun will be there or if the sun will be blocked by those mountains. That mountain range is the mountain range that's just to the to the west of Kerbal Space Center. Okay, so our parachute's fully deploying. And we are down to about 5.5 meters per second, about 1.3 kilometers above the surface. Okay, let's speed up. Let's see. Okay. Right. Okay. Pretty nice view here. Sunrise or Kerbal rise. Speed up here. Looks like we won't be in shadow. Alright. And we've landed. Okay, let's recover our vessel. We're not too far away from the Space Center, so the recovery costs won't be as expensive. Cover. Alright. Okay, so we have a lot of science. So, EVA report from space just above Kerbin's grassland. That's 8 science. Kerbin's water, Kerbin's mountains, Kerbin's deserts, Kerbin's shores, Kerbin's highlands, and we've also recovered a vessel returned from the Kerbin orbit, but we've done that before, so that didn't yield any additional science. We recovered the Mark I command pod, the parachute, and no onward propellant because there wasn't any loaded. So, and of course my crew, my Valentina, she actually did not increase or gain any XP despite doing an EVA. But she did the EVA, so that's good. So, now, let's see here. I'm not sure why I went into this. Maybe it's because I clicked that. So I'm going to leave this facility. Let's go to mission control. It's in the morning. So our archives show that we, looks like, yeah, we finished this mission. Is it this one? Alright. Yeah, we did that. I believe this was... Okay, so this is what it is. It's from the Kerbin World Firsts Record Keeping Society. So, yeah, so finish this one. Go on an orbital spacewalk near Kerbin complete. So that yielded about, let's see, there was an advance of 6720 credits, completion of 13,322 credits, and 2 science. It looks like 3 reputation. Okay, so let's leave the facility then. We have finished our mission here.